So we're driving on the beautiful Cabot Trail and we're in the 2021 Hyundai Elantra. So if you haven't seen that video, I'm going to be making a review of this car, but just look at this beautiful road. Out here, the Atlantic Ocean is just on the side of us to the left. We have these beautiful rocks up to the right and this winding, beautiful stretch of road. It's going to take us all across Cape Breton on the most furthest east coast part of Canada.
Now, I've had this car for more than 10 days and put over 2,000 kilometers on it. If you want to see the full review, I will link it in the card above. But in this video, I want to show you what the actual self-driving capabilities look like from the driver's seat perspective, how it is to drive the car and operate this 2021 Hyundai Elantra. I think a lot of people are looking for a little bit more in-depth knowledge of how it is to actually drive it from the cockpit. So this video is going to cover basically everything you need to know about the usage of this car in a road trip or daily driver conditions.
So the fully autonomous driving here, again, we're in good conditions. You know, your hands are supposed to be on the steering wheel. I'm just doing this for testing purposes so you can see that I'm not actually touching it or adjusting anything. And look at this. I can kind of just sit back, enjoy this wonderful view. Wow, this just all looks absolutely breathtaking. And the car is doing a great job of just taking control, keeping in between the lanes. Here we're coming on a more of a faster curve. Car's adjusting great. And now we're behind this Jaguar, who's going much slower than us. You know what I like about this car? Very good handling. I like the thick steering wheel. You know, for a 4-cylinder car, it's got enough power just to get you through daily driving. I'm still having fun through this. And the suspension is super compliant. Wow, look at these roads. This is remarkable. Now, the one thing from driving this for a bit now that the car likes to do, it likes to hug the line on the left or right. It likes to hug the center line really close. And then especially it becomes a problem when the lane is really big. It starts bouncing between the lines in the lane, which is a little bit odd, but that's what happens for like when the road gets a little bigger. So here, okay, so it's made the turn. It kind of went a little too far off that way in my opinion. And again, I'm going to take control here. It wasn't going to go ahead and do that turn. So, you know, I think for highway driving, it's perfect. Like in the highway, it was doing great for me. But this is where kind of the limitations of that system starts to actually break down, where you'll want to actually have control. And you know what? I don't want the computer to drive on these roads. I want to drive on these roads. So I'm going to be taking control. But I did want to test to see what is the limitation of these driver assistance and safety features. And really it is that. It's not, you know, full intelligence to go ahead and do full self-driving like, you know, Tesla would compete and say that they do, which they don't. They have a specific level of self-driving capability, that's level 2. No one's gone to that point of level 3 yet. So again, think of it as a driver assist. Think of it as a helping hand when, you know, maybe you're a little bit tired, you felt drowsy, it's keeping you in the lanes. That's what this is for. Again, let's see how it navigates this turn. Navigating really well, really smoothly. And I actually do feel it applying the brakes, adjusting as you're going through the turn. So I think this is really impressive. I love the fact that it's doing this. It also has a whole bunch of safety features in terms of, you know, advanced warning for stopping. So if a car is stopping in front of you, it's going to go ahead and apply emergency braking in certain situations. It's also going to allow you to trail another car in front of you and understand how much distance you want between the other car in front of you for that lane assist as well. So there's a lot of these cool features, and this car starts at $21,000, which is really crazy for me to believe that, and it just shows you kind of the advancement in technology and what it can offer at this day and age in 2021, which is pretty incredible. I am going to be doing a full review of this car, so if you haven't already seen that video, I will make sure I link it in the card above. But we are taking this car on an entire road trip, so I'm going to be able to go ahead and see how you can use it in terms of traveling around, in terms of performance, you know, road trip driving experience. All of these factors I'm going to be walking through on this car. I think it looks like a very beautiful car. I think it looks great, especially in this black. You know, the interior I also think is very nice. You know, very nice screen here. Maybe a little low res, maybe a little bit small, but that's okay. This is kind of more of the budget end of a car. So the fact that it has all these technology features inside of the car brings a lot of value, in my opinion, what I think. Again, comfortable seating position. It's not all of the features that you would expect in any car, obviously above its price range, but for the price range, the fact that you have a capability in a system like this at this price, that's impressive. That is really cool. And even, you know, I'm driving here today and I was in the Tesla a while ago. The joy of it doesn't actually escape you. It's really cool to see it in action every time you get in the car, and to see it kind of drive itself and really effectively do it is really impressive again. So make sure you stay around for that video. I will make sure I link it in the card above. But again, really impressive 2021 Hyundai Elantra. And look, in case you do need control back into the steering wheel, okay, you just take control. You know, I want to turn right, check my blind spot, go right, okay. So it doesn't, you know, stop you from doing what you want to do in terms of taking control of the car. And then as soon as I let go, okay, it's back on assist mode. So back on assist, I'm not touching anything. Foot's off the gas pedal. Again, you have the Bose audio system here as well, so the music's nice, sharp. Not so much bass, but that's okay. You have a lot of the mid-tones, you have a lot of treble, you have a lot of the high tones, which is also fine. And you can see we're still on this beautiful road. It's now raining here in Cabot Trail, but this car is doing phenomenal. The seating position's also great. And now it's bugging me and keep my hands on the steering wheel. Perfect. It is heated seats. It doesn't have cooled seats. That's okay. That's fine in this scenario. I think the cloth seats, if you're gonna get cloth, I'm glad that they're black so they won't get stained or anything. But otherwise, those are kind of the major cons of this car, which aren't really that major at all. I'm just impressed with all the technology and the functionality that they have in these cars. Okay, Hyundai Elantra 2021 acceleration test. Here we go. All right, really smooth. Transmission, I thought, shifted really smoothly. Obviously, not so much power, not so much torque, but it gives you the jolt that you need in daily driving, commutability, overtaking on the highway, especially those first gears. That's where the brunt of the power is going to come. In the higher gears, you're going to, you know, struggle a little bit more with getting that power, but I think that was respectable. And again, the suspension is just very compliant for this car. That's what I really like about it. If it's a daily driver, it needs to be compliant. We're on beautiful asphalt here, which is obviously very easy on the car, but even in some of the roads where it was just gravel roads, it was doing really well on some of the biggest potholes that I know on my R8 or my Lexus, for example, that would give it a jolt for sure. This is a 2021 car. Obviously, suspension's there, it's good, it's comfortable, everything's set up to be driven as a good daily driver. And I'm so far really enjoying this entire car. I really like the steering wheel. It's nice and thick. I like the thick steering wheel. It's got a little bit of a different shape, I'd say, just like the interior and the exterior of the car. I think they took a lot of, you know, design Hail Marys on some aspects of the car, and I think that's fine. So we've been driving this car for about a week now, all through Nova Scotia. We've been on the East Coast to the West Coast. We're going up north, up to PEI now. I want to talk about fuel economy. I think as a daily driver, if you're considering this car, one thing that you're obviously looking at is what is fuel economy like, especially with gas prices the way they are at the pump today. Like I know with my R8 and my Lexus IS250, those consume a lot more gas. It's a V6 and V8 engine, and it gets expensive at the pump. So what does fuel economy actually look like in real world conditions with this car? I'm really happy with it. So you can see on the dash and the fuel gauge here, on average, we've been at 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers. And that's really, honestly, incredible. We've been doing lots of mixed driving, mainly highway. I'd say maybe, you know, 70-30 or 60-40 highway in terms of our driving. And I haven't been going easy on it. Like I've been actually doing some hard stops, you know, 0 to 60, all that kind of stuff. It's not like I've been driving with fuel efficiency in mind, and it's done really well. 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers. Just a little bit of perspective, my 2009 Lexus IS250 gets about 11 to 12 liters per 100 kilometers. and my R8 gets way worse. So having this just constantly go with such little gas is really great. I don't feel it at the pump at all. You know, there's no sticker shock. I think the last time I filled this up, it cost me almost $50, and that was it. So that's really cheap. And the other great thing again is that this doesn't require premium fuel. Premium fuel right now in Canada is extremely expensive. I think it's about $1.70 a liter for premium 91 octane. This requires just regular gas, 87 octane. You don't need that. And again, this is the baseline engine. With the turbo, a little bit of a different story. The other engines in the line, a little bit of a different story. But this base 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, you know, producing a good amount of horsepower for a commuter, enough torque, I think, in the early gears from gear 1 to 3 to go ahead and get you up to speed with the CVT transmission. I think it's done a phenomenal job. I just wanted to call that out. Fuel economy wise, I've been very happy, very impressed. So I am actually going to put my 4-ways on, pull over on the side here, and we're gonna go fill it up right now. So you can see we're about just over a quarter tank, or just under a quarter tank of gas. We still have 156 kilometers on the range till empty, but I'm gonna go ahead and fill it up now just so you can see how cheap it is to fill this car up. So just a little under quarter tank. Let's go fill it up. All right, take this, get some regular. Let's see how much it's gonna cost us. So you guys can see 749 kilometers on a full tank. I just filled it up, cost me $47, averaging 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers on this road trip. I think this is great fuel economy. The fact that it's only regular gasoline, I honestly feel like this is as good as it's gonna get for a daily driver commuter car with an internal combustion engine. So really great. And this is just, again, the baseline engine. I think it does a phenomenal job for fuel economy. So we're on Cabot Trail and we're driving through these beautiful roads. I want to talk about some of the stuff that we actually don't necessarily like about the car. Honestly though, a lot of the stuff I do like. I think for a commuter car, it's great. There are small little quirks that I think they can go ahead and iron out in the next iteration to make this more enjoyable. Number one is this. While I said I like how it's very cockpit oriented towards the driver and it makes you feel like all of this is yours, it's kind of annoying for the passenger. When I was sitting in there, my knees are actually hitting on this and there's no leather, there's nothing here protecting the passenger's legs from being hit. So you're constantly, well, the passenger is constantly having their leg just tossed into the plastic here. That kind of is painful. So that's one little annoyance there. The other thing that I would say is maybe a little bit of annoyance is that I wish the car gave me a little bit more understanding about when it's disconnecting from the active lane assist. So I mentioned that the feedback from the Tesla was much more pronounced in terms of the steering wheel vibration and the visual aids to tell you, okay, the assistance is not working as intended, or it's not on in this particular environment or scenario, that you should be making sure that your hands are on the wheel. In this case here, so let's say I activate it, you can see both of them. If you see on the dashboard here, they're both green, the lane assist and the assist on the steering. So you can see right now it's on and it's going, but not really that well here in that example. And see, it just automatically cut off and now it's back on. See, it's not giving me too many warnings about when that's actually happening. So a little bit odd there. So now it's back and you can see that, okay, it's assisting me in these scenarios, but it is kind of, you know, iffy here or there. On the highway, it was rock solid, but here, you know, it's being a little bit iffy at times. And see, it likes to hug the center line more than I actually would like to. It's definitely, and see, now it's bouncing. Now it's come a little bit here. Now it's coming here. And this lane isn't that wide. So on some wider lanes, it does tend to bounce on the driver assist here. See, there you go, it was left. Now it's pulling right. Here's another turn. Let's see how it actually does this. So you can see it's really hugging the center line. Then it waits too long. Then it starts turning in once you've hit way out of line on that lane. So that's, again, I think that's the thing that they can improve in the future. See, a little bit too much to the center line of the road, starts to correct back. It's not so much of an issue, and to be honest with you, you actually shouldn't be, here's another example again, hugging too much in the center line, and then it's kind of course correcting itself back in. I just wish it didn't do that so much, because it does make you feel uneasy. But the point is, you're not supposed to be actually having this fully do this on these type of roads. I wouldn't recommend it for that. On the highway where the turns are much less, you know, sharp, you can go ahead and use this and be pretty confident in its capability. So those are two things from the interior. Obviously this doesn't have the full package with the 10-inch screen and doesn't have all the options, but I think from the most part everything else does what it needs to do, right? It's got enough horsepower and torque to get you through, especially in the low gears when you're going up, ramping up to highway speed. It does well, it gets you there. Fuel economy is also something that's honestly pretty impressive. So you can get about 800 liters on a tank for this car. It just consumes regular gas, so you don't need to pay for premium. I'm impressed with the fuel economy, and this isn't even the engine with the turbo. The turbo's fuel economy is even better in certain scenarios. So those are other options that you have as well. Again, I like the steering wheel. I like the controls here. I like the center console. I actually like having the controls here as well, or the fact that you have tactile buttons and switches with touchscreen display elements as well. Great engine, right? Fuel economy's there. It's got enough power for your daily driving needs. Exterior styling, interior styling, I think they've done a great job. You know, it is based on personal preference, if you like it or not. I like it when I first saw it, and I actually started to like it more as I drove it and as played around in the interior. Lots of interior space, lots of luggage space as well. You've seen the trunk space. I think there's a lot there. You can also fold down the seats if required for any longer items, so that's cool. And then the transmission. So this is the CVT transmission, and it hasn't, you know, gone any problems for me. You know, it's been fine shifting. Here we go. You know, this is not a dual clutch transmission. This is not a sports car. I don't expect it to be, you know, shifting gears super fast. But what I expect it to do is to get me into the gear that I need to be in, so I can, you know, overtake when I need to, you know, go into the higher gears when I want to go ahead and save fuel. I'm on the highway coasting. It does all those things. So I'm really happy with it. And then the other thing I also talked about previously was the rear view dash, or the rear view backup camera, which is a much wider angle in terms of what you're able to see. So I really like that wide angle lens on the camera. And then the other piece about it, it looks really nice on this big display here, this 8-inch display. It'll look even better on the 10-inch display. So really not too many qualms with this car. We're continuing to drive it on our road trip here in beautiful Nova Scotia, and it's done such an amazing job. And I just like driving this car. I like the steering wheel. I love the visibility. So big, large windshield. The A-pillars are not super wide. You can see them, they're pretty thin here. And really, it does everything you need it to do in a car. And hopefully, the only question I really have is, coming from a Lexus or Toyota, is reliability. Is this car going to be reliable, you know, 5-10 years from now? That's a great point to start talking about the warranty. When you get this car, they are bringing it out and introducing that 10-year, 100,000 kilometer warranty. So big warranty on this. The first 3 years is free scheduled maintenance as well. So there's a lot of value in here. For 10 years of peace of mind for, you know, any major mechanical work to be done by the manufacturer, a 10-year warranty is huge. So I typically don't say to buy new cars often because of the depreciation, but I think if you wanted a new car, you're looking for a daily driver, 10 years, warranty, high 17,000 starting, and this car isn't, you know, supremely packaged. So this is probably like a sufficient review for the majority of people that are going to get this car. They're going to enjoy a lot of safety features, a lot of great stuff that you require when you're taking this car as a daily driver, you know, out on road trips, bringing the family, bringing friends, bringing a lot of stuff with you. This car does amazingly well. Let me know what you guys think in the comment box down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.